Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Dragon Tree Reads. I am Lizzie with Dragon Tree Emporium, and this is time for a mid-month check-in. First, we'll start with things in my life. My husband has recently switched jobs, which means that we get to spend more time together during the week, which is very exciting. It has led to us starting to play Guild Wars 2. Which is the first video game that I have been able to play in a very, very long time without getting vertigo or a migraine. So that's amazing. Um, but that means that I have less time to read, and it means that I have even more less time to craft. So I'm trying to come up with a new schedule. These videos are going to be every other week. And then if I feel like or can do an episode on the off weeks, that's maybe something else, like an in-depth review or something. I might do that. We are getting me a new mic because this is like the fifth or sixth time that I've started this video. Because I kept having sound issues. Like, there was no sound issues. So, that's coming, which is great. Maybe get a new setup, set things up differently. We'll see. Also, our living room, all of the bookcases are finally built and put in their prospective spots. You might be able to see behind me. There is now a bookcase behind these shelves facing the sleeping part of my room. So that is cool. My partner also has 2 bookcases in his room because, yes, we did definitely overbuy bookcases. Right now, they're all empty. But I will be slowly filling them as I can. I think my cat is getting ready to jump on my chair like he does every video. Nope, he's going up high. And I will be posting probably stories or reels or shorts about actually like putting the books where they belong. So make sure you are following me on Instagram. That is same name, Dragon Tree Emporium. But I'll also post the shorts to YouTube as well, because I definitely watch more shorts than I do reels. We'll see. Okay, that's done. No crafting update, because, well, I haven't been crafting. But I have finished books. I have finished 6 books this month already. To be fair, 2 of them I started in January, and then I finished them in February. So the first one was The Calculating Stars by Mary Robinette Kowal. It is the first in a series. It's called the Lady Astronaut series. It is amazing. I gave it 5 stars. It's like an alternate universe. Like, what would have happened if the US had put more money into the space program earlier? And also, what would have happened if shortly after World War II, a meteor fell and landed in the Atlantic Ocean just outside of DC? So it's a really in-depth look. It's very interesting. Semi-based, I mean, some of it was pulled from history. The actual, like, treatment of women, the, how they were considered basically nothing, in the sciences. I mean, it was the late 1940s, 1950s, so we all know how women were treated then. But it is a gripping story. It's gorgeous. It lands on a cliffhanger, so I cannot wait until I get to read book 2. 5 stars. Amazing. And then the second book that I finished in February but started in January was The Terror by Dan Simmons. And it is a fictionalized version of the Franklin expedition to find the Northwest Passage. So some of it is based in truth, but he fictionalized a whole bunch of it. He did a lot with the Inuit myths, Inuit culture, the like belief system of the Inuits, or at least I hope he actually like consulted with Inuits. Um, eh, it wasn't great. It was long. The audiobook is like 28 and a half hours. It's over 700 pages, I think. Yes, like 769 pages. So it is a chunky book. I just gave it 2.5 stars. I wasn't really impressed with it. It seemed very. It was very dry, and there were some very, very unnecessary details about the side characters, like the background characters, their backstories. It just, I don't know. I wanted a bit more of the action. I didn't really need to know about all of the characters, I don't think. Um, but then it took place in the 1840s, so there were some not great things that they did. Um, and not great things that they said. Which of course makes things difficult with our like modern sensibilities, which I don't really. If it's historical fiction, I don't like take away stars for including that. I think it's an important part of history. I think those stories need to be told, and we still need to include the bad with the good. Um, but man, some of them were not necessary. Just like all of the details, they weren't necessary. And then there was like major whiplash at the end. I don't. It felt like he wanted to tell a magical realism story, but he didn't really want to tell a magical realism story. Yeah, yeah. So that was the second book that I finished in February but started in January. And then we get to the first book that I started in February and finished in February, and that is Spread Me by Sarah Gailey. Oops. Push that back out. So this is smut, but it's not completely smut. Like, there's a lot of plot. A lot more plot to this than I thought there was going to be. But it was very good. A strange specimen hiding deep in the desert in search of a place to hide. It may have just found the perfect person. Kinsey has her dream job as the team leader in a remote research outpost. She loves the isolation and the way the desert keeps temptations from the civilian world far out of reach. When her crew discovers a mysterious specimen buried deep in the sand, Kinsey breaks quarantine and brings it inside. But the longer it's there, the more her carefully controlled life begins to unravel. Temptation has found her after all, and it can't be ignored any longer. One by one, Kinsey's team realizes that the thing they're studying in search of a new host, and one of them is the perfect candidate. very big queer representation. I'm pretty sure that every character is some form of queer in this book, um, including the main character, Kinsey, who is Ace. I use, I don't want to spoil anything. We'll say Ace. But there's a thruple. There's a messy thruple that happens. There's lots of little passing back and forth, and crewmates, teammates hooking up with somebody and then somebody else, and then it's messy and glorious. Um, and gets a little dirty. I loved it, though. I gave it 4.5 stars. And then I read my first arc. Yeah, that's right. Baby's getting arcs now. Um, so the first arc I read was called The Snow Queen's Heir by Kyla Jude. And oh boy, I didn't actually finish it. I only made it like 40 pages into it, maybe. And that was a rough 40 pages. So, in theory, it's a very good book. In theory. So the premise is it's apparently a high stakes YA romantasy. The main character, Noelle, her life gets turned upside down when the whereabouts of a mysterious and powerful necklace are revealed to her through letters from her grandma. But she isn't the only one searching for it, and her quest to find it attracts a lot of perilous attention, including the Snow Queen, who is rumored to be a morally gray villain. I say rumored because, I mean, that's what it says, but the Snow Queen literally has a thought of, I know what the rumors say about me, but I don't want to be a monster. That was kind of funny. In premise, it's very good. In reality, it's not. It needs a lot of work, I think. And to start things off, the dedication was to Jesus because he answered my prayers. And honestly, I should have stopped there. I should have stopped there. That's all there is to it. The grammar was a little bit off. Like, it was reading as though the author just learned English as a second language, right? So there were like idioms and like I can't remember the phrase. Turns of speech. And just different things that just it didn't quite line up with what I'm used to. So it felt like it was English as a second language, which is totally cool. Absolutely. Like, let somebody clean that up a little bit. Heck, leave it in there. But turns out, no. Not English as a second language. English is the first and primary language and only language. So I just felt off. The dialogue was clunky and stilted and felt really, really forced and fake. Like, I know it's fake, right? It's a book, but it didn't feel like it could be a real conversation. Some of the characters were, it kept taking me out because they kept making all these comments about like living in a big city and living in Chicago and like just weird things that wouldn't really be said by people who actually live in a big city. they had this whole scene in a cafe about how, oh my god, you ordered ketchup with a hot dog. We don't do that here in Chicago. We don't give out ketchup for hot dogs. Literally, this was like half a page of this. What? I mean, look, I get it. Like, Chicago dogs, they're a big thing. They're delicious, don't get me wrong. But you can totally get ketchup. Totally get ketchup. Even if you're like at a specialty cafe, they might like give you a weird look, but you're gonna get ketchup. Why is there half a page of dialogue of arguing about this? I don't know. And then I have a very warm cat next to me. Um, what else? Oh, there was this whole, what really made me stop is that we get to meet the actual like secondary character. Um, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, I saw you at the cafe the other day. It was such a small world. Who would have thought that two random people would meet in such a big city the day after, like one day after another?" First of all, she never saw you. You're being creepy. Second of all, if you're in the same area every day, you're going to see people that you slightly recognize. Like, I live in a large city. I see the same cars driving to work around me every single morning and driving home like every single afternoon. You know, I go to the local coffee shop and I see the same people on the same days. We have our schedules. It's not that uncommon. But this secondary character just made a whole big deal about it. And it was just, I don't know, it just threw me off. So, anyways, I gave it a 1 star. However, we'll get to my next arc when we go over my current reads, because that one is very different. And then the next book that I finished is Half His Age by Jeanette McCurdy. This is her novel, not her, I guess, memoir, I think it was. Um, I know there's a lot of controversy around this one. So the synopsis. Actually, yeah. Waldo is ravenous, horny, blunt, naive, wise, impulsive, lonely, angry, forceful, hurting, perceptive, endlessly wanting, and the thing she wants most of all, Mr. Corgi, her creative writing teacher, with a wife and a kid and a mortgage and the bills and the dead dreams and the atrophied looks and the growing paunch. She doesn't know why she wants him. Is it his passion, his life experience, the fact that he knows books and films and things she doesn't? Or is it purer than that, rooted in their unlikely connection, their kindred spirits, the similar filter with which they take in the world around them? Or perhaps it's just enough that he sees her when no one else does. So, yes, this is a book about a teenager getting together with her teacher. It is very graphic. I mean, it starts right off with a sex scene between her and a peer. And we have multiple of them. And yes, she does get with the teacher. Spoiler, no spoiler. Trigger warning. But it was a good story, I thought. It was intriguing, it was engaging, if you can get past the grooming and the pedophilia. But the writing just isn't there. So I gave it 3.5, I think. So no, 3.75. Mainly because the writing is just kind of mediocre. And I felt like I wanted more of an ending. I wanted more of a closure. Um, this did not have closure, really, which can be fine in books that are really, really, really well written, but this one was not. So, there we go. And then after that, I finished Bundy, The Deliberate Stranger, which was written by Richard W. Larson. Larson was a journalist. He was a friend of Bundy's, like an actual good friend of Bundy's. Um, look at, oh, I can't, you can't see it because of the glare. But it's Mark Harmon. Apparently there was a TV show based on this, and Mark Harmon played Bundy. Um, very fascinating. Getting to see Bundy's life through the eyes of a friend. Very, very interesting. However, Larson writes so many unnecessary details. Details about witnesses, like every person we have to meet, every person we meet, we have to know their hair color, their eye color, what their skin looked like, how they smelled, what they were wearing, whether they were fat or skinny or tall or short, and just unnecessary details. However, I was buddy reading this, and all of those unnecessary details sent my friend Sam spiraling. And that was the best part of the book, was watching her spiral. So, if you have a friend who's going to spiral and yell about unnecessary details and the incompetency of cops, buddy read it with them, because that's the only thing that got me through. Um, I rated it higher than Sam did, I think. I think she gave it like a 2.5. Shelby and I gave it a 3.5. I gave it a 3.5. I can't remember what Shelby gave it. 3.75 maybe? I don't know. She's more forgiving than I am. Okay. Finished books. Moving on to current reads. First off, we have Blood Orange, which is by Karina Halley. It is the first in the Dracula duet. The second book is called Black Rose. And I am listening to the audiobook. I am nearly 50% through, and I adore it. Essentially, it is based on the it is a modern day Dracula retelling, in that it's about the real life Dracula that inspired Bram Stoker. And throughout his whole life, his undead life, over the centuries, the love of his life, Mina, keeps getting reborn. And he finds her and falls in love with her again and again and again, and she dies again and again and again. And now, in the modern day, she is back. She is a student of music, studying under him, because, yes, Dracula is a music professor. Except she is a witch, and she is supposed to be killing him. And so she has cast a glamour spell, and he cannot recognize her for who she is. It's great. I am very much enjoying it. The narrators are very good in the audiobook. The male does a very thick, Eastern European-ish accent, but he's currently living in Italy, so there's also and has been for a while, so there's also a little bit of an Italian accent in there. Um, it's interesting. Ooh. So I'm reading that, and I am also reading another arc called The Forest Becomes Her by Julie Carrick Dalton. This one is not what I expected it to be. I'm really enjoying it, but I thought it was going to be like lit fic, and there's been a little bit of like plant life, ecological body horror. So interesting, giving a little bit of Hazel Thorne, a little bit of Don't Let the Forest In vibes. But it mentions nothing about that in the synopsis. So I don't know. It's weird. The description is in a historic, bucolic Concord, Massachusetts, a centuries-old forest has been removed to make way for a new eco-friendly housing development. The locals are upset by this destruction, but out-of-towners like Hazel Stoddard are flocking to put down their roots in their new guilt-free dream homes. Soon a tragedy leaves Hazel unmoored in her new life, and she begins to feel the pull of the absent forest. Hazel is not alone. Her neighbors, real estate agent Stella Flint and teenage environmentalist Polly Bauer, each have their own traumas and their own relationship to the land. The three women are drawn together to save the last remaining oak tree, where they risk losing themselves to lingering shadows that only they can see. And I was like, okay, the grief, trauma, lingering shadows, etc., right? No. I think they truly mean, like, the ghost of the forest, it seems like. I don't know. We've got some spooky shit happening. We got some body horror happening. We've got, like, plant life that wants revenge. I am down for it. But, man, if this goes the way I think it needs to, it definitely needs more, like, hey, this is body horror on it, because there was none of it. None. So, that's it. I'm also reading for, it's chunky. For the February book of the Fantasy Traveling Book Club that Allie's annotation is putting on. I am reading The Sun and the Void by Gabriela Romero LaCruz. Look at how pretty, look at how shiny that foil is. Oh my gosh. So this was not my pick. It was sent to me. It is absolutely gorgeous. This is the Illumicrate version. It is signed. I am enjoying it very much so far. Here's the inside and the spine. And then you have very pretty sprayed edges. And the line. Oh, look at that! It's so pretty. Oh, it's so pretty. It's just gorgeous. And this is a YA fantasy about some mythical creatures, mythical, like, hybrids. So far we have met some sort of deer people called Valcos. There we go. So we have, like, deer people. They have little antlers, and they're called Valcos. And then we have the Nosriel, which are seemingly like Camian based. So kind of They have almost like a scaliness, crinkliness to their nose. They have different colored eyes. They have pointed ears, which is interesting. Um, there's also another type, I think. I'm not very far into it, but we've got, along with the different human hybrid races, we of course have the racism that comes with it. So we'll see how this goes. I have 2 weeks to finish that. I need to get it annotated and done and shipped out by the end of the month. That's my goal. And then in the meantime, here are my to be reads for the month. Hopefully. Mate by Allie Hazelwood. This is the third time I've checked this out. Hopefully, I get to actually read it this month. Then we have Princess of Blood by Sarah Hawley. Once a servant, now a princess, a young woman thrust into powerful challenges, everything about the underground Fey realm, and spellbinding sequel. Wait, this is a sequel? See, this is what happens when I don't read. Shoot. This is what happens when I don't read the descriptions at the library. Okay, maybe I won't be reading this month. I gotta get the first book first. Savage Blooms. I don't know what this is about. I don't. It's a dangerous and decadent subversion of Found Family. I'm here for it, as long as it's not a sequel. And then we have Fate's Bane by C.L. Clarke, which is a sapphic tragedy. I really hope there's some love story in there, but I'm here for a tragedy. That works. I Think I'm in Love with an Alien by Anne Aguirre. It looks really funny. And then possibly reading Elgo Speak. I wanted to read this in January, but I didn't get it in time. So we'll see. I might read it this month. I might not. Alright, we are just over 30 minutes. Oh, also, for February, I will be reading Wet Hot Allosaurus Summer by Lola Faust. Yes, that is a clinch cover. That is a dinosaur clinching a woman to his chest. Yes, this is Dino Smut. Yes, I am excited. That's it. Thank you for hanging out today. Let me know how my sound was. I did do a little bit of a different setup with my mic, although it does keep spinning around backwards and falling forwards. It's not great. I promise I'm getting like a clip-on lav something. That's it. Have a great day.